Hello, kindred spirits. The lush summer green is blessing us just now, and my fairy Glen looks more beautiful than ever. It was time to forage more elderflower, but this time I was on the lookout for the pink blossoms to make some syrup. Family and the difficulties that can arise within this group of people have been a subject on my channel before. Those vlogs were always of high interest to you, so sharing more of my own story can possibly help you to navigate through your own situation. My family cancelled me over 8 years ago, just when my lovely father passed away. Today, I would like to offer some insights to why I think this happened. I come from a large family. I am in fact one of 6 children, which was challenging for me from a young age. As I found out only 10 years ago that I am a highly sensitive soul, I can see in hindsight how this influenced me in my childhood. For example, I would always get up extra early in the morning so I was able to be alone. I loved those mornings as otherwise our house was always quite loud. I mostly felt different from my family. There was an inexplicable distance, especially when I grew up, found my own voice, and questioned the expectations I was faced with, the status quo. Starting to step out of line, shaping and following the first steps of my own path was not well received and constantly criticized, either openly or camouflaged through comments made in jest. This was the beginning of what happened decades later, in the very moment I was most vulnerable. My family and I didn't see eye to eye for many years when they cancelled me. So it did not come as a surprise. What was a surprise was the manner in which they did it and the timing of it. My father had a severe stroke in 2018. I was living in Scotland for around 6 years at the time, but I had seen my father regularly. We visited him, we traveled to Rome together, and we spoke over the phone many hours. So we still had a very close bond. Of course, I immediately started planning to go to Germany. There was a lot of organization around it. I had to have my son excused from school, find tickets that I could afford, and even accommodation, because staying with my siblings was not an option. Before we traveled, I tried to get as much information as I could about my father's welfare. But in the group chat, whenever I asked, I scarcely got an answer, or when I did, it was very rudimentary. So I knew my father was stable and still alive. When we were in Germany, my father actually was quite well. I got to speak to the doctor, and he was actually really doing so well that they were thinking about him being able to go to a care home. So I traveled back to Scotland and again found myself in the situation of trying to get information. I could see that something was going downhill from the little things that I could read. And when I asked again, I didn't get the information on my father, but wouldn't it be good if you were here? Even though I had lived in Scotland for 6 years by that time. So I learned that my father was actually dying. And of course, I wanted to see him again, and I considered going to Germany again. And I thought and reflected on this for days. On the one hand, I wanted to see him again, and on the other hand, and the reason why I eventually made the decision to not go was that I wanted my father to die in peace. I knew he was surrounded by people who loved him, but my being there would change this. The atmosphere, energy and tension in the room would change. And I believe, and I think scientists agree these days, that even people on their deathbed can sense these things. And that was the reason why I didn't go. I didn't want my father to die with that feeling. So he passed away, and one of my sisters kindly phoned me, and I appreciated this. But afterwards, I didn't hear anything. I was left out of any arrangements for his funeral or his estate. I got a card in the mail telling me when and where the funeral would be. So I traveled to Germany by myself this time, and I went to the church. I didn't go in with my family, I didn't sit with my family, and I didn't go to the wake afterwards. But I had wonderful and kind friends around me. They supported me, they took time off work to be there for me, and we had our own wee wake. I still have a photograph of this, and I fondly look at that sometimes. Even though it was such a sad day and it was a sunny and warm day, it is still lovely for me to see me sitting surrounded by people who love me. I have always known that once my father would pass away, I would break away from my family. I was holding the peace for years for my father's sake. But of course, I would have done it in a different way. And of course, I would have wanted to be part of my father's last journey. And that was taken away from me. And that was very, very hurtful, as it was intended. For a long time, I had thought my being different was the reason that my family had issues with me. It was only years after my father's death when another family member challenged my sisters on why they actually cancelled me. She wasn't given an answer, but they unanimously agreed that I was my father's favorite child. So that seemed to be the reason that they wanted to be cruel and hurt me in that moment. And I think that kind of tells you a little bit of the energy in my family. To decide that this is the moment where you are hurting someone even more than they're already hurting is a story in itself. And of course, there's way more to the story that I can tell you today. Don't get me wrong, my siblings aren't evil people. They supported me when I needed support as a single mother. When my son's father walked away, I had to find a job. And I quickly did find a job, but I had no daycare. So 2 of my sisters took my son in for 8 months so I could go work before I found a daycare space. And to the day I'm thankful and I appreciate this. Of course, this didn't come without challenges as well. They knew I was raising my son in my way. And whenever he was with them, they did the opposite of what I would do. However, I was able to make a living, and that was the main thing. So again, I wasn't saying anything, I was holding the peace. I would also like to point out that this is my side of the story, my perception and my feelings. My sisters will have their own opinion, their own perception and their own feelings. And I'm sure my being different will have challenged them throughout their lives. However, I also know that I am not the only sibling that has broken away from the family. One of my brothers has done so already in 2004 for his own reasons, and I'm sure they might be quite similar to mine. There's of course way more to the story than I could possibly tell you in one vlog alone. I am sad that my family is as it is, but I am not sad that I'm no longer part of it. Families are difficult and challenging, or they can be, and some families aren't. Everybody gets along. And that's wonderful if you have that kind of a family. But if you find yourself also broken away from your family or from a difficult family, I thought I'd share a wee bit of my story with you. So you see, you can create a happy life with your own family or your friends that become your family. Family is not by blood alone. You can choose what your family is. And with this, I'm sending you to the next part of the vlog. let me say goodbye now. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Look after yourselves and be happy. I am sending you all my love from Scotland. Tach baleif.